Alright fellas, here we are back on Pokemon Masters, and today we're taking a look at Anniversary Skyla and Ethereum Tornadus at 5 out of 5, 6-3x with the Strike EX roll and I think like plus 8 grid energy unlocked. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Skyla has not ever had a free rerun ever since the 2.5-year anniversary, which is when she debuted. So that's pretty fun. So anyone who is lucky to have gotten her between that time and now, as implied, is very lucky. And of course now she's got her fair tiles and she got her EX roll unlocked, which was Strike, right? Skyla had a lot of potential to have a good EX roll, whether it be Field, Strike, or Support. Either of those would have been good, and she got Strike, which again is good. This effectively turns her already quite solid nuke into an AoE nuke, which combined with having Soften Up 1 in the grid is very good for her nuke, guaranteeing crits and whatnot very consistently, of course. Her main thing is that she has Inertia, as well as Interference Sync 5 with the innate of Flying Zone, 200% in total nuke multipliers, which are all very easy to activate because it's just speed buffs, a status change, and then Flying Zone, which she sets. Her biggest utility is, of course, utilizing Confusion and Flinch in order to make the enemy not move, and of course make them hit themselves in Confusion, and of course activate her multipliers and potentially allies multipliers. She's also got pretty good efficiency in being able to activate, or being able to work as a supportive character, be able to buff ally speed, apply healing with mini potions, and in the grid, of course, she also has a barrel roll for damage reduction, as well as Team Sharp Entry 1 for crit buffs to the team, and of course to herself, which is of course a very good note. Tons of good notes that she has on her grid. She even gains Flying Zone extension at 5 out of 5 with the new Fair Tile upgrade, which is extremely useful in any long form content, as well as things like Interference Immunity and Fortuitous 9, giving her very, very good debuffing ability, which is extremely good for Latias and a lot of other legendary arenas, and Shifty Squad 4 for evasion buffs, which can be extremely cheesy, right? A lot of the legendary arenas that allow for accuracy debuffs and of course evasion buffs to Skyla will be extremely good for giving her some solos, because accuracy debuffs combined with evasion is a very, very good way, and of course healing too with her mini potions is a very, very good way for her to get some relatively consistent legendary arena clears. So I've got some things lined up, about 3 stadium battles, as well as a legendary arena duo against Latias, which she can solo Latias, but I'm not going to be resetting for that. Have fun with that. So I guess let's just go ahead and hop into these battles and take a look at how Skyla has aged and, of course, how good her upgrades are for her. This is a very maxed out Skyla. Alright, and here we are against Diantha to start out our battle, just in order to get a good look at Skyla for her full Striker nuke. Pulled tech to turn Striker now. So this is effectively just maxing out speed, maxing out special type, maxing out crit, and of course giving the enemy effective with Confusion, so that she can have her Interference Sync activated, right? We use Dana as the main support here, also able to apply Super Effective Next. This doubles as a maxing, quote-unquote maxing showcase, or test, I guess, as well as a free-to-play one, because we're using 2 free-to-play supports for this. So we got +5 special attack, +3 speed. Of course, the speed could be a little bit better, and also that was pretty much it. Just +5 special attack, +3 speed could definitely look better, but I don't really think it matters too much when she's doing 57,000 damage to the enemy. Right, that allows for some pretty fast clears, especially there. Probably could have gone for -3 sync countdown and just done the run just as effectively, if not more so. I ran sync countdown because I knew Skyla would KO, right? Nuke is very oppressive. That is one thing with Skyla, is that a lot of the time you would like to utilize her utility. Her nuke is good, of course, but utilizing her utility prior to her EX roll and whatnot was very nice. But now that the fact she has her EX roll, combined with obviously the strength of her nuke, and of course the offensive stats increase and Soften Up 1 now as well being a lot more useful, this just makes Skyla go from a lot of utility-based stuff and now to mostly just, if I can nuke the stage, I can win the stage kind of thing, where it's like, why would you want to use her why would you want to nuke with any other strikers if now you could just nuke with Skyla, right? You can nuke with Skyla. She's got probably, I'm gonna go ahead and say off the top of my head, out of all the flying types I can think of, she's got easily the strongest flying nuke in the game, considering AoE now, and I'm pretty sure it's still the strongest flying nuke even outside of that, right? I still think it's even stronger outside of all of her techs. I think Skyla's still got the strongest flying nuke, and now why would you want to nuke with any other striker or anything when you have Skyla right there available to you? So yeah, So he's got an amazing nuke on type and off type, which we'll look at a little bit later. But let's go ahead and hop into the next battle. Alright, and here we are for a battle with utilizing triple Unova ramping, so to speak. We're able to use Skyla here to ramp Nate's master passive and his circle in order to empower Hilda. And obviously Nate himself, right? We're able to utilize Skyla as a tank because of her flinching. You could also utilize Disarm and Fortuitous for debuffs to debuff enemy offensive stats, but this setup is mostly reliant upon flinches, which are relatively consistent. Not the most consistent thing, but they are consistent enough to be functional, which is just fine. No real problems there. And we're also able to utilize Malva's own son early on here in the battle to get some good damage up with Hilda, which is always good. So that works out just fine for us. They also get hit in confusion, which of course is another good prospect about Skyla, is that of course even if you fail maybe flinching the enemy, they can hit themselves in confusion, so you've got yourself potentially another layer of, I guess, protection in order to help out and make sure that Skyla's not taking damage, your team's not taking damage, whatnot, all of that stuff. And of course Skyla is again also able to utilize mini potions in order to keep the team healthy, and that all overall works out. I'm pretty sure she goes down to this specific overheat, but at that point she's already done her job. She does not need to survive any longer because she has acted her role. I'm not saying Skyla is the best role for this, 100%. Obviously, you know, Neo Champion Rosa is easily better for it. Mostly any physical buffer is going to be better for it. But of course, I'm just mostly trying to show that Skyla can work in a tanking role or a more utility-focused role where she's not reliant upon or the team is not going to be reliant upon a support, so you can potentially pick up a few extra points in stadium or something, or you just can have some fun setups where you don't need to utilize a support. That's kind of the fun thing with Skyla to me, is that she can take up the tanking role, which is very nice for a tech character with her potions, her attack and special attack debuffs, and her flinching and confusion, making her pretty solid for that. And of course barrel roll as well, which sadly was not able to be utilized much in that battle. Well, not utilized at all, because of course we do, for when we're facing Malva, right, she's going to hit hard no matter what, and obviously we had to have Dragon Zone up for Nate, so no Flying Zone activation to have Barrel Roll activated. Not really the best showing of Skyla's, tanking capabilities, but this stadium in general is not a great showing of that, and I didn't want to wait too long to put this video out, so I just figured I would sacrifice a little bit. So flinch spam it is to make sure the enemy stays dead. Which of course is one of the most fun things with Skyla to me, is utilizing her flinch utility to just stall enemies out while having my allies do all the damage that they possibly can. It's extremely fun and pretty effective in my opinion. And here we are for a basic off-type with Skyla, utilizing her alongside Lysander and Proton, triple flying. Not exactly intended, but I mean, that's just how it happened to work out, especially because Proton is my most recent support, so he was just high up on the, I guess, pecking order. We're able to use Proton here to max out Skyla's crit, special attack, and speed. Not, I don't think max out, but do effectively buff it enough to the point of where it's high enough to suffice. And Lysander for DPS, DPSing here, as of course implied. So that's nice too. So here we go. We go ahead and utilize Skyla's nuke, and of course, I mean, it's effectively kind of the same thing as the on-type battle, where we're mostly just like, hey, why would you need to nuke with any other flying type when Skyla exists, right? This is the bad thing about this grid, is the specific grid that I do have set up here does not conform to having Soften Up 1, simply because of how out of the way the node is. So sadly, because of that, we're not able to KO the side that was having its move activated, which of course it would have been better if we did, but hey, that's just how things happen to work out. Can't really worry about that all too much. That's just how it is. Enemy likes to get flinched a ton, so we do also get some pretty good flinch luck here as well. And we're able to pretty much stall out the enemy until we're able to activate our next flying zone, because I did also pick up flying NPR with this setup, and we also utilized Proton for more flinches just because of how potentially inconsistent Skyla's flinches are. So I wanted to also be able to have another backup source, which is another reason why I brought Proton. And anyway, yeah, the flying zone extension was also extremely helpful, because as you saw, I set up like what, turn 3, I think, and it lasted pretty much almost until the second sync move, which I'm pretty confident it would have stayed up until her second sync move anyway, but I wanted to be sure, and it's not like Air Cutter was going to exactly do a ton of damage to begin with, so no real risk there. I don't know why I brought Lysander, just a little bit of damage. He could easily be sacrificed with any other flying damage dealer for the most part, or any other damage dealer in general. It doesn't really make much of a difference. But again, that's just basic off type with Skyla. You could definitely make it look a little bit better by, instead of bringing flying extension, you could bring soften up 1, which would have probably made the clear a little bit more smooth. But hey, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter too much. And of course, it does highlight one of Skyla's still lingering issues, is that of course she's not very capable of doing damage by herself outside of the sync nuke, which the sync nuke definitely carries her damage, 100%. But of course, not having too much damage outside of the form of air cutter, which is not great, is a little bit annoying. But still, I don't think it's enough to be called a detriment to Skyla now, especially now, right? Like, of course, it was a big issue back before the X roll and expansion and whatnot, but now I think it's been made a lot less of a factor or less of a consideration, because now the nuke is AoE. That is definitely a big difference, at least to me, but whatever. Let's finish this off by defeating Latias, I guess, in the Legendary Arena. And to finish off here, we have our duo against Latias, as stated. It's also an Eggmon duo with Egg Dragonite. Again, do note this is not like the most effective strategy. This is not anything crazy. It's just something that I did personally, and I wanted to do. So this does make utilization of course, Fortuitous 9 plus Disarm, which gives us very fast offensive debuffs as well as the random debuffs from Fortuitous itself. Skyla's really solid for, at least in my opinion, I think Skyla's a pretty solid gauntlet unit for pretty much any duo. Don't know about solos, but of course I think that she's going to get quite a few more solos from her Fair Tiles plus EX roll, but that's not really too relevant. And also great energy, of course. But I think she's a pretty solid unit overall, just to kind of like check a lot of the different gimmicks of any given Legendary Arena, right? She can handle a lot of the interference needed for Uxie with the confusion and the flinch. She can handle the zone requirements of things like Terrakion. She can, of course, handle team speed and engage management, so at the very least, she's got that utility with the flinching and confusion and supportive ability with her speed and potions going on in order to just mostly handle any Legendary Arena. And then, of course, she has the offensive debuffs and the evasion buffs now with Shifty Striker, right, or Shifty Squad, whatever it's called, which all that stuff is very, very nice for sure. So you get yourself a lot of great utility, great debuffing, great yada yada, all of that, which is just overall very, very helpful for sure. So it's pretty nice. The potions there being very, very helpful too. So we got ourselves pretty much the full nuke for Skyla activated with speed, special attack, crit. The enemy has confusion. We've got flying. No, we don't have flying zone up, right? I forgot about it. Obviously, that's a pretty big one there, but that's fine. It's not a big problem. We've got a lot of debuffs on Latias right now, and also the paralysis from Dragonite's very nice too. But also, we got a lot of debuffs here. We've got the accuracy, I think, -1 accuracy, right, which is going to be very helpful for later, of course, because we do have Shifty Squad, which is nice, but also we're going to have to be dealing with potentially high-powered moves later on in the fight, so we want to be careful of that. I figured I'd go ahead and utilize Flying Wish now, so we could potentially just skip this entire bar and not have to worry about Latias, which would be nice, right? So I'm pretty sure that's what we actually end up doing, despite the fact that Latias here doesn't actually have interference. She does neutralize a lot of the stat debuffs we did, so we only have a few, but still enough for Fluid Fortification not be activated. 42,000 damage, definitely very, very nice, and just skip the whole second bar, so we don't have to worry too much about potentially Latias buffing its evasion, right? So we don't have to worry about that, but still got evasion debuffed. We'll be alright. Crits, of course, can be annoying, so it's probably a little bit better to utilize Vigilance here in this battle, or maybe like, I don't know, Stoic or something, some sort of defensive ability than it is going to be to run Critical Strike 2, because I never bothered changing it. I didn't feel it was that important. This little bit came down to pretty much relying a bit on flinching, so we could get the Flying Zone up, and then ending this battle here. Which again, surprisingly, we did not have Interference Sync activated, so the fact that we were still able to win without having that multiplier activated is pretty good telling of the strength of Skyla's nuke. More so the lack of strength necessary in order to actually beat a Legendary Arena, but still, either way. That's a very consistent duo against Latias with Skyla. Again, Skyla can solo Latias, but I'm going to be sure that that probably requires some... At this point now, it's definitely made a lot easier by the fact that she does have Fair Tiles, because she does not need her Fair Tiles, or maybe Grid Energy, I'm not too sure, either way to defeat Latias, but I'm pretty sure that it's definitely going to be made a lot easier now because of the Fair Tiles and Fortuitous 9, and probably the Flying Zone extension as well is going to be very helpful for that, so all of those things just make it a little bit easier for you to potentially do a lot of different solos, so that's very, very awesome. Again, the accuracy debuffs and the evasion buffs are going to be very helpful for pretty much cheesing any gauntlet, because you're not going to be taking too much damage outside of sync moves, which you can potentially flinch lock into getting your sync move first, which is going to be very effective for Skyla. So that's great. Don't know how much of a gauntlet god she is now, but hey, that's fine. We still got a pretty good showing of her in a duo, so I think she's fine. Either way, that was the Anniversary Skyla 5/5 6-star EX EX Roll Unlocked Showcase. Sorry if the battles were not all that fantastic, or if there's a little bit of lacking in creativity. Not the most creative person, and of course, and also I, for some reason, just have a bit of quote-unquote writer's block making the showcase. I just was not sure what to do, but I just knew I wanted it to be out, not as soon as possible, but in a reasonable time frame, so I wanted to potentially wait and think about it a little bit, think about the battles, and I figured I'd come up with this. Maybe not the best effort stuff, but of course I still do think it was a pretty good showing for Skyla and the new abilities that she gained. We showcased, of course, the Unfortuitous, as well as a Shifty Squad versus Latios. We showcased the Flying Zone against the final battle with the off-type, and Interference Immunity is certainly an ability, for sure. Whatever. That was the showcase for Skyla. Very amazing upgrade with the Fair Tiles, and the EX roll definitely makes her look a lot better now, and I'm very glad that she finally got the upgrade that she needed. Hopefully now we'll get a good upgrade for like Cygnus or Ethan or something that makes him just, I don't know, better DPS, though realistically I don't see that happening. It's going to be EX rolls, which realistically I think Skyla's going to beat him out regardless. Maybe, of course, you could go support with Ethan, but I don't know. Whatever. I'll see you all later. I hope you all enjoyed. If you have Skyla and you're happy about her buffs, let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I'll see you all later.